to durable.
Good Tuesday afternoon. Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thrilled to have you here today because what started out as a heavy fog day, and as I drove to Fargo, the sun came out. It was miraculous. It was lovely. And now it's overcast again. So if those of you who are in sunshine, I did talk to some folks out in McIntosh County here about an hour ago. It's lovely there. Temperatures are up. Sun is shining. Today in Fargo, we anticipate getting to about 39 degrees. I have no idea if this fog overcastness is going to burn off. Because I'm not a meteorologist, I'm just going to take a guess and say, yes, it will. And it will be lovely. But the rest of the week looks to be temperatures 50s, mid 40s, possibly a light chance for freezing rain on Friday. So let's be careful out there. Many of us will be on the road later this week. And we realize we've got to keep an eye on the roads, the weather, and everything else that comes with it. I'm Ag Director Bridgette Readel, here at the helm with my trusty mascot. That would be Cooper, the Highlander cow. That poor devil. Every time I see him, I think I should bring a comb and make him better. And then I never do. So, Addison, there's your disappointment in me for today.
Cooper needs a good brushing.
He does. He looks like he's been rolling in the great outdoors.
He kind of looks like me. He's been through a lot.
And that's just today, right?
Yeah.
I brought you cookies.
You did. It was true.
Yeah.
It was the highlight of my day.
Well, maybe I can find you more.
I wouldn't argue with it.
I did not bring milk after our great discussion yesterday about how milk is required for cookies. I apologize.
It wasn't a great match, but I did have some McDonald's Sprite. It was possibly the worst thing that could be paired with a cookie, but it was better than a dry mouth, I guess.
I am the monster who forgot the cookies today.
I didn't try dipping the cookie in the Sprite. I was not that brave.
Those are giving you some fun bubbles.
It might have just killed me on the spot, honestly. I'm not quite sure.
Good news. I have doctors in studio today. You'll be fine.
Oh, okay, good.
March is Colon Rectal Cancer Awareness Month. And as part of our Fit Farmer Focus that we do every month, I am joined by doctors from Essentia Health. So looking forward to when we get into our 120 segment today. We are going to be talking about what's going on as far as farmers, what we need to be thinking about when it comes to our long-term health, because God bless everybody who farms. We're an agribusiness. But do we take the time to get in when we need to? Not always. So we're going to see what things we're missing out on and what we should be planning for. Now, Addison, yesterday was a busy day. You better tell me if I already did this one. Did I talk about the Women in Ag study yesterday? Do you recall?
I don't think you did.
Okay, so National Women in Agriculture study is currently going on. 2026 happens to be the International Year of the Woman Farmer. Globally, farmers make up 50% of farmers are women. And we have women, especially in other countries, who do the majority of the work on their operations. It may look more like subsistence farming than what we see here in our region. But I have more and more women who are involved. A lot of daughters are coming in to take over the family operations. In fact, I had a message this morning because they wanted to know who's our recommended estate planner to work with their farm as dad might be getting ready to retire. This came from a daughter who wanted to make sure that things were done as accurately as possible. I almost said fairly, but let's remember in farm transitions, we can't always say that fair is equal because it may have to differ. Now, let's go back to the Women in Ag study. Because this is a study that is being done, you can, all the way through March 31st, you can find the link to it, womeninagsurvey.com. I did put the link for this on the Weather and Ag in Focus Facebook page, and so you can go find the link to get here and take the survey. What they're looking for is women from all 50 states and Puerto Rico to complete the survey. They are looking to do potentially follow-up interviews, focus groups, and their key objectives for the study are that diverse perspective from all over the United States, an understanding of leadership pathways and mentorship experiences, identifying training needs, preferences for women in agriculture, and highlighting other opportunities for community building as well as presentation or representation. The information will be presented at the International Year of the Women Farmer ACE Summit, which will be held in Washington, D.C., coming up in June 2026. For those who are interested in finding that information, as I said, I put it on our Facebook page for Weather and Ag in Focus. And part of the things that we do here every day is we live stream on Facebook. So you'll be able to follow our video there, as well as YouTube and Acres TV. Lighthouse Commodities, who is on more than 1 million acres when it comes to commodity marketing, they provide our live stream. We've already had phone calls coming on the JLA Insurance phone line. That number is 701-293-9000. Our crop insurance deadlines are coming quickly. If you haven't talked to Nate Thorsrud, who is a farmer himself, you might want to. Nate can give you great ideas on what to expect, especially as we are seeing higher premium subsidies, more coverage options, and other higher benefits for beginning farmers. So again, talk with Nate at JLA Insurance, and they sponsor our line of 701-293-9000. I'll watch for emails, and emails can be found for me, ag@flagfamily.com. And additionally, that is powered by Superior Grain Equipment. They not only protect your farm's future with superior grain storage, drying, and handling solutions, but they make sure that my email inbox is open and waiting for you to send those messages and those questions that you might have. That's just a little bit of the housekeeping that's going on today. Other items, let's talk about pollinators if we could. Now, many times when we talk pollinators, the first thing that comes to mind is bees. There are over 20,000 species of bees globally, and just in Minnesota, about 525 of them. They range from tiny species that you can barely see with the naked eye to that very large and all-important bumblebee. Now, flowers and bees, very closely linked because bees can be a very critical pollinator of flowers. Often, we don't think about bees when it comes to many of our cropping systems. And in particular, I'm going to say soybeans, because when it comes to soybeans, they're self-pollinating. But Iowa State has recently found in some research that wild bees and honeybees can improve our soybean yields up to 20% when they're around bees that can help them do some pollination. Something we hadn't thought about. And when we talk about pollinators, often I hear the discussion about, well, I don't see the favorable plants that pollinators like I once did. So let's use a case in point with the monarch butterfly. And often the monarchs really enjoy milkweed. To be honest, we often see milkweed in our road ditches. Folks have told me, well, I don't see monarchs the way I once did because the milkweed, well, it's moved. It's not that we've eliminated milkweed. Some of it certainly has decreased in population. That can happen in two ways. One, if we are using some pesticide control with herbicides, that can happen. Also, we mow our ditches up here. All right, pop quiz. Addison, you're my only pop quiz guy I can use. Why do we mow ditches in this region?
Looks nice.
Thank you. We get hay for cows, right? We
Yeah.
get some ditch hay. But also, you have to keep the grass down in order to prevent problems in the winter months with plugging roads and
Can I
blowing
change
snow.
my answer?
Yes, you can.
It must be very satisfying to just mow down tall grass like that on like a big 0-turn mower, actually. That final answer, satisfaction.
I would like you to go even larger than a 0-turn. I want you to think about the big batwing mowers that we're pulling behind tractors. You can drive the full-size tractor. You're good with that?
Yeah.
Lessons learned. And so we see less milkweed in the ditches, and therefore we see less of our monarch butterflies. But they're in other places. Many people are putting in pollinator gardens. We are seeing that as a native species that's returning to pastures and other grassland type areas. Remember, if you want to put in a pollinator garden, you certainly can, but you don't have to overspend on the seed that you're going to use. It doesn't have to be a multi-species type of seed. In fact, you can go ahead and simply be doing a pollinator garden with something that's maybe narrowed down, just maybe 1 or 2 of those mixes, and you can use it for a single restoration area. And it's going to give you a little bit better habitat in the long run. So bear that in mind, that pollinators, well, they move and shift too. Climate can have part of that. Situation change for them, as well as what we see with some of their habitat. We want to take a moment to hear the livestock report from the American Ag Network. Now, I say that, but yesterday it didn't run. We had a little trouble. We're going to see if it comes back today. We hope so. And I hope that I hear Jesse Allen tell me that cattle are much higher, but we'll find out right after this. Sing along if you know it. Many of you do. See, this worked out great to introduce Essentia Health Fit Farmer Focus, because all of us could do just a little bit better, not just our farmers. I am joined in studio today in honor of Colon Rectal Cancer Month by two of our doctors from Essential Health. I'm going to ask Dr. Dustin to introduce himself first. And go ahead, pull those microphones nice and close to you so we get good sound.
I'm Dr. Dustin Nowotny. I'm a general surgeon working at Essential Health, focusing obviously on the surgical care of the colorectal cancer patient.
Do you see a lot of farmers coming in or not enough?
I'd probably say not enough. We see a fair amount, but it's usually the standard story of I don't have time or I got to get this done in the winter.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I'm scheduling it now to plan ahead for after harvest kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And they rarely see you because usually you're wearing the mask.
Yeah, wear a mask for surgery, but generally get to take that off nowadays.
Oh, nice. And we also have Dr. Kimberly joining us today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Happy to be here. Dr. Kimberly Colkhorst. I'm a gastroenterologist at Essentia. I'm also the chair of the department. I've been here for about 10 years. Grew up in New York.
Oh, really?
So I have a newfound appreciation for farmers. I really do. They're my favorite patients.
Are they more honest with you?
Very
Okay.
much so.
Good.
Yes. Yeah, they're straight shooters. They'll tell me,
This maybe isn't the best analogy, but the folks over in the maternity ward probably get some comparisons of farmers comparing their wives to first calvers. You maybe don't get that, but I bet the analogies can be similar.
Absolutely. If I ask them about stool and what their bowel movements look like,
They're right there.
they're pretty accurate.
I didn't need to bring a sample. I'll just tell you all about it.
Exactly.
Okay. So who do we see first? If we're making the appointment, we think there's something wrong. We just know that we're not feeling well. Do we start with you, Dr. Kimberly, before we go over to see Dr. Dustin? What's our progression?
First step actually is your primary care doctor.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is such an important thing to talk about if you're having any symptoms, if you're worried, and then also if you know about any family history of colon cancer, definitely go in and talk to the primary care doctor and start there.
Tell me symptoms. When you say symptoms, okay, I have a stomach ache. I'm taking a lot of Tums. I'm good, right?
So for colorectal cancer, symptoms can be blood in the stools. And a lot of times people will think, oh, it's just hemorrhoids. It's just hemorrhoids. Well, you don't know it's just hemorrhoids. That's why we need to do that colonoscopy and take a look. But so blood in the stools, bleeding, a change in bowel habits, meaning new onset constipation or diarrhea.
Oh my.
Some people will tell me I had diarrhea my whole life and all of a sudden now I have constipation. That's a red flag symptom. We need to check that out.
Okay.
Abdominal pain, unintentional weight loss, and even an unexplained iron deficiency anemia. These are things that you need to make sure you talk to your primary care doctor about.
Hold on. As a woman over 50, all of a sudden, when I want to give blood, I know that I have to take iron for days in advance until I'm ready. Is that the same kind of a symptomology?
Well, unexplained iron deficiency anemia. So yeah, so in menstruating women, if you have anemia because you have heavy menses, but if you've had a previous workup and you don't have a known cause for that anemia, then you need a colonoscopy.
Now, some of you are like, oh, squeamish. I just finished lunch. This is not the conversation I wanted to have. But the reality is, whether it's you, someone that you know, it doesn't have to be just the farmer. It can be anyone in the family needs to be thinking about these things. We actually had some other folks in from Essentia earlier this year, and not kidding, there was suddenly a patient who arrived at Essentia Health and said, I heard your RN, Molly Murch, your educator on, and she talked about strokes, and I want to bring my husband in. So you guys, the work that you do today helps that progression for folks to think about why they need to do better and what they need to do next. When it comes to surgery, how good is everybody at following the take it easy, don't do this, don't do that?
That really depends on the person. I would say a farmer generally comes in two spectrums. They either listen to the T or they push the limits to maybe too far of an extent.
Absolutely. And so let's talk to what it looks like when you see those patients. Are you setting them up for surgery? Are you expecting to see them as a follow-up? I mean, people are curious. They're like, I only have time to go in once. How many times do I really need to see you if you're my surgeon?
Yeah, so that's always a big concern. Obviously, the follow-up for surgery comes after the diagnosis of cancer on the colonoscopy. So you go through the colonoscopy, you get the diagnosis, and then they set up a follow-up with our surgical clinic. We do have extremely good access, so there's times where Dr. Colkhorst puts the consult in before the path is back, and I actually see that patient the next day, and I still don't 100% know what that path says.
Okay.
So our access is great. You can kind of find any time you want to come in. And then generally, once we know, that's kind of the extent of it. You don't have to come back most of the time. There is some additional workup before the surgical procedure. Lots of times we get additional imaging to make sure that that cancer hasn't spread anywhere. And then we talk about the surgery and the options during that visit and kind of get everything coordinated and moving forward.
The average age of farmers today would be about 57 years old. But there seems to be a trend towards younger populations increasingly at risk. What can we contribute that to? Any ideas?
Yeah, it's actually quite alarming.
Oh, my.
Because colorectal cancer is now the leading cause of death in patients under the age of 50. So this is really something we need to be talking about. And young patients aren't even thinking about it.
Of course
Colon
not.
cancer is the last thing on their mind. So that's why we really need to spread awareness for that this is something that can happen to anyone. You don't necessarily have to have a family history of colon cancer to get colon cancer. And even I've seen patients in their 20s and 30s with colon cancer. And most of the time, most of these cases are usually rectal cancer. So that main presenting symptom I've seen is mostly rectal bleeding.
Colonoscopies are always recommended for those of us over 50. But that number has probably lowered at this point, correct? Where are we at now? What's that barometer?
Great question. We are actually now starting at the age of 45,
Okay.
which is absolutely a step in the right direction. So we decreased from 50 to 45. Now all of our 45-year-olds are like, well, I guess I got to have a colonoscopy. So they're coming in and getting it done. I would love to see that number even go lower to 40, but we're not quite there yet. And that's where symptoms really come into play. If you have symptoms below the age of 45, then you need to come in and get a diagnostic colonoscopy rather than a screening colonoscopy.
We
And
have,
I
go
was going to
ahead.
add, there is one caveat to that too, is if you have family history,
Mm-hmm.
it's 10 years before that person was diagnosed. And so if they were diagnosed early on at 40 or 45, you would be 10 years before, would still be reasonable to get another colonoscopy.
This is going to sound silly, but that's not necessarily a something that people tell you, right? So in some families, it's almost like a little bit of a guessing game. I know
Correct.
you were sick, but I don't remember why. And folks aren't really always good about sharing that kind of information. I know that after we get past our bottom of the hour news at 1:30, we're going to be joined by Robin. She's a listener who is a colon rectal cancer patient, and she's a farmer, farm wife, and so much more. And I think Robin wants to make sure to advocate for several things. One of them is taking care of our own health. She also is one of those very few people that even though you go use the Cologuard box, which, by the way, that is the weirdest thing to carry into the UPS store. I am just telling you right now. But, she's that 1% that it didn't work. So colonoscopies, even if you take that colon rectal test, the colonoscopy still has to come at some point. Would you say that's true?
Colonoscopy is the gold standard screening test for colon cancer.
Okay.
So that's absolutely the number one way to go. However, any screening is better than no screening.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why a discussion with the patients and an individualized decision should be made. The thing I want to impress upon patients is that if you do a colonoscopy, we can prevent colon cancer. This is a preventable disease if you have your colonoscopy done, because at the time of the colonoscopy, we can remove polyps, which are precancerous growths. So we take them out before it turns into colon cancer. And I'm taking out precancerous polyps in about 30% of patients. So it's very common to take polyps out. But then also, we can also diagnose. So if we see a colon cancer, then the earlier that we do the colonoscopy, the better the patient's long-term outcome is if we find it early. In the best case scenario, I find a colon cancer that I'm able to endoscopically remove at the time of the colonoscopy, and they're done. They don't need any more treatment. But if it's gone through the layers of the colon, then they might end up needing surgery, chemotherapy. But the earlier that we find it, the better off you'll be.
Quick question before we get to the bottom of the hour news, and I have this coming in from a listener as I'm watching all the various screens that are going on over here. Does your appendix have anything to do with whether or not you could get colon cancer? Maybe that sounds crazy, but can it be tied together?
Yes and no, I guess. So as
Fair.
part of the colon, so there are specific appendiceal or appendix cancers. Sometimes they're harder to find because you don't get to directly visualize the inside of the appendix if you're doing a colonoscopy. We find a lot of those on incidental taking out the appendix during surgery. I don't think there's any major ties that if you've had your appendix removed that it increases your risk at all.
Okay. That is good to know. All right. When we return after the news, we will be continuing our conversation with our doctors from Essential Health who are here for the Fit Farmer Focus today. We have Dr. Kimberly and Dr. Dustin. If you're wondering why I'm using your first names, people like to know who they're talking to. They feel like this is a very conversational discussion. And then we are also going to hear from one of our listeners. Robin Hansen is calling in from Iowa. So when we return, we'll keep talking about how to get better health. Today we are joined by Essentia Health for the Fit Farmer Focus. Notice how I slowed down to say that. And we are joined in studio because it is Colon Cancer Awareness Month, colon rectal cancer. And we want to make sure to be talking about this with Dr. Kimberly and Dr. Dustin. They are a gastroenterologist as well as general surgeon. But also we have a guest on the line. Robin Hansen is from Iowa. Robin is a colon cancer patient. I'd like to say survivor because you're just about there. And you are a wonderful advocate for other farmers and farm families to take care of themselves, Robin. You've been on the Nooner Chat on X with me, and we have done a podcast that's going to be uploaded based off of that discussion. Just give us a brief overview of why people should be working so hard on behalf of themselves and their health.
You bet. Well, thanks for having me. Colon cancer, as they said a minute ago, is the number one cause of death for people under 50. It's increasing at an alarming rate. When I was diagnosed, I was 49, and the age had just turned to 45. My Cologuard was negative, but I was actually stage 4 colon cancer. Since then, I have had 9 surgeries and 40 rounds of chemo. And if the age would have been sooner, I would not be in the steps I'm in now.
So that looking ahead at 45 years old and younger really would have made a difference for you.
Yes, it would have. I may not have been stage 4. You know, they say it's been growing probably for 10 years. So, you know, it still wouldn't have probably caught all of it early enough. Maybe it would have, maybe it wouldn't have. You just never know. The biggest thing is when you go to your family, now that I look back, I've been anemic my whole life. So that was nothing new to me. When I had my gallbladder removed, I was either constantly constipated or things would flush through me like no other because of not having a gallbladder. But when you start to look back at, maybe I should have listened to my stomach because I did have, the abdominal pains. Mm-hmm. But that always came with everything after I had my gallbladder removed. So is it coincidental? No, I probably should have listened to my body and then pushed my primary care to do more. But we thought the Cologuard was the answer because, of course, you weren't the age for colonoscopy.
As I look to Dr. Kimberly and Dr. Dustin, based on Robin's story, any comments or highlights that you want to make sure that listeners go, yes, pay attention to that. Listen to what she's saying.
Robin, I'm wondering, do you have a family history of colon cancer?
I do not. There's not one family member that has colon cancer. We always thought breast cancer because it runs rampant in my family, so it was a matter of when, not if. And here I got blindsided with colon cancer.
And that is what I'm seeing. In the patients under the age of 50 with colon cancer diagnoses, I'm noticing there is no family history of colon cancer. That's alarming too. And that really speaks to environmental risk factors. And that's where we need to do a lot more research looking into why is this happening? Mm-hmm. Why is this such an alarming increase in patients under the age of 50? And what environmental risk factors do we need to look at? Some of the things that have been proposed have been diet, lifestyle, increased risk of obesity. And with diet, we're looking at diets high in red meat, processed meats, and then processed foods. We're getting away from eating whole foods. We're getting away from eating real food, and we're eating all this fake food, and then the seed oils, the canola oil, the vegetable oil. How is that affecting our colon health? These are questions that we're asking. We're looking at plastics or microplastics and
in high amounts,
yes.
Right? Because everything is good in moderation.
That's correct.
But as a kid who grew up mostly in the 70s and early 80s, everything we ate started with a P. Pringles, Pop-Tarts, pizza. I'm on a roll here. These are all the things that we did, and it's probably something that we just didn't think about what the impact was going to be long term. Now we're seeing it.
That's right.
I think that diet and exercise is a huge part of it, and many of us, including myself, not, I can get more exercise. There's things I can do better. And so I don't think we realize the impact that it could have on something like colon cancer. Very good point for you guys to make. When you have a detection for colorectal cancer, how do the gastroenterology and general surgery teams collaborate for that best practices? Where does that lead us?
Well, like we talked a little bit earlier, detection really comes down to gastroenterology and the colonoscopy. And so basically finding the cancers leads us to be able to treat them, and finding them sooner is always beneficial. The sooner you treat things like cancer and those sorts of problems, the better the results can be. Obviously, as Robin mentioned, her stage 4 is pretty advanced disease. Surgery is the main initial treatment for colorectal cancer. You look to try and surgically remove the entire tumor during that operation. And if it's an earlier stage, like Dr. Kolkors mentioned earlier, if you get it out at that point and it's not spread, you don't need any additional treatment. You need surveillance ongoing, but additional treatment could be essentially skipped if you find it soon enough. And so kind of proceeding with those things in a stepwise fashion is how we kind of make sure it goes by standard of care and everyone gets treated equally and appropriately.
And Robin, you made a really good point when you said, listen to your body and have that conversation with your doctor, because that was something you really needed to do to make sure that you were getting what you felt was your best care too.
Yeah, and I loved my family doctor. She's now retired. And there was a few things that, it's like, hey, what about this? No. So hindsight 2020, I did have COVID and I got super constipated and I had blood in my stool. And once again, it was all checked up to, oh, it's hemorrhoids. You have an internal fissure because of the constipation, because of the COVID, because my Cologuard was negative. So it is very important to push and get the extra screening, to not just chalk it up to, oh, it's that because of this. Let's go the extra step. Hey, that's great that it's negative. I want to be sure here. Let's get some other tests scheduled. All my labs were normal. So that's another factor that is kind of frustrating, because not one level was off other than my anemia, but I had been anemic my whole life. So it's kind of hard and to push when everything's technically looking just fine.
Mm-hmm. But you knew something was wrong.
And Robin, it's so important for our listeners listening right now to hear you, because colonoscopy is something people like to laugh about, or they like to...
Oh, there's jokes.
Yeah.
Holy cow, are there jokes?
Oh, yeah. And they try to put it off and, they don't take it seriously. But then when they hear someone like you saying, I wish I had had a colonoscopy, I wish I had had it done sooner, it saves lives. Just get it done. It's one day, and it really changes the trajectory of your future. I take out these big polyps sometimes in these patients that are high risk, precancerous polyps. And I'm like, thank God you came in and got this done today. Mm-hmm. And there are so many patients that all of a sudden they realize, wow, I am so appreciative that I got that done. So it really is, it's one day, but it's well worth it. Just get it done.
It's an in and out procedure. That's the best news, right? Versus if we're gonna have to go see Dr. Dustin, we're gonna be there a little longer.
That's right. That's right.
So plan accordingly for that. Go ahead, Robin.
My motto to everybody is, it's a momentary inconvenience for a lifetime of happiness.
Yes.
There you go.
And I've had over 100 people go get their colonoscopy, and sadly, over 60% of them have had polyps.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And of that 60%, I'd say greater than almost 45 had precancerous polyps.
So you're really proving the trend that we mentioned earlier about more people and younger are now finding those polyps and those early stage cancers.
That's right.
And like Robin mentioned, is those polyps, they grow early. And so it takes a while for them to develop into a cancer. So there is time between the polyp to the cancer transition, but if you do it early enough, you can treat it without that ever becoming a problem.
As a surgeon, there have been advancements made in surgical techniques. I mean, okay, look, I got my appendix out when I was in kindergarten. The scar is as big as I am now, right? You grow with it. But things have changed. It's not nearly as invasive as it once was.
Yeah, that's correct. We offer all sorts of different techniques, and some of it depends on the patient.
Sure.
But a lot of the surgical procedures are done minimally invasive now, whether that's laparoscopic or robotic. We're able to use the technology to our advantage to help minimize that incision, helps expedite the recovery, and kind of get patients back to kind of their normal stage a lot quicker.
Incredibly positive forward movement.
Yes, absolutely.
There used to be and I think it's still on, but there was a radio show out of Indianapolis that every year during October, they called it Proctober, and they would literally have a guy on air do his one of the hosts would do a proctology exam. I'm not sure if you guys want me to sign up for a colonoscopy, and we do that live on air. That could get a little rough. I'll sign up my co-host. He's not here today.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll get him in for it. Folks, what message do you want to make sure to convey to listeners about all the importance, the early detection, and certainly to the doctors at Essentia, how our listeners can best get in to see you? And I'm going to ask Robin to give her thoughts before I have our doctors answer what their next steps would be.
The biggest thing is get away from the stigma of talking about your bodily functions as not okay. You need to be open with your primary care. Talk about your poo. Guess what? Everybody does it.
Yeah.
We need to talk about it, and one of the things that they don't talk about enough is they call it ribbon poop. It's a thinner line of poop. That means there's a polyp in there blocking your intestine, making it this thin line. Pay attention to it. That's all I can say is pay attention to your poo and talk about it.
This is a conversation that just makes me smile. Never thought I was going to have this today without livestock people in the room, but here we are. So, okay, to our doctors from Essentia Health, what are your last thoughts today?
So one thing I wanted to say is make sure to ask about your family history.
Okay.
That definitely comes up a lot where a patient is diagnosed with colon cancer and then they say, oh my gosh, I just found out that my grandpa had colon cancer, but I didn't know that before I had this colonoscopy. So ask the hard questions. Call up your aunt that's still alive and ask her, why did great grandpa die? Did he have colon cancer? Find out, get that information. And then I was curious about farmers to see if farmers have an increased risk of colorectal cancer. Mm-hmm. So I did a little research, and there actually is an AgriCan study that's been published. And for farmers that work with poultry, pigs, and specific crops like sunflowers or field vegetables, they have been shown to have a higher risk of colon cancer.
Huh.
And then if you work with pesticides and particular insecticides like aldrin and dialdrin, that has shown to be increased risk of rectal cancer. And then certain disinfecting milking equipment, haymaking, and sowing are also higher risks for colon cancer. So for our stubborn farmers out there, if you're listening, come on in and get that colonoscopy done.
And even before you have to come on in, make sure you're using your personal protective equipment. In any of those situations, that's what's going to be your best line of defense to start with. Dr. Dustin.
And then like we had talked about earlier, any screening is better than no screening.
Yes.
So colonoscopy, it is one day. It can save you lots of hassle in the future. It can save you from meeting me in the worst time of your life. So getting in, doing some sort of screening is better than no screening. And colonoscopy, like Dr. Colcourse mentioned, is the gold standard and can provide screening, but also treatment at the same time.
Well, make sure that you are reaching out to your primary care doctors. You can reach out to Essentia Health to talk to the health educators who will certainly put you in the right places as needed. But above all, take care of yourself and listen to what your body says no matter the situation. So thank you to all of our guests being on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to do a recap of my terrible weather forecast. I mean, I'm not the meteorologist, but I'm going to give it a go after we come back. Okay, here's your not meteorologist giving you the semi-accurate forecast that I have. I'm sorry. I know you all want me to do better, but it's just not my spot.
I could give a 5-star, too
Review?
enthusiastic thumbs up.
It's overcast. The weather is cloudy.
Sky's gray.
Okay.
Fog.
Hey, but we're supposed to get to like 39 degrees. And I bet if this low-hanging cloud cover would burn off, we'd probably get there.
Visibility is probably about as far as you can see.
It is. And there's no ice on the roads.
Big plus,
Yeah,
actually. Big plus.
I thought that when I was driving in today. So, yes, big plus. We're not good at this, but we try.
Too
And
enthusiastic thumbs up.
And I hope folks are listening and they kind of giggle and go, you two are terrible, but thanks for making me smile.
I'm just glad that there's not ice on the roads anymore. On most roads, some roads in town still aren't doing so hot.
Yeah. I'm
30
hoping.
second.
I'm not calling anybody out, but I am. Right?
The plows can do better. I'll call them out. I'll call them out on it.
Well, it's all froze down now.
I
But
know,
although
that's the
it's
worst part.
softening at this point with as temperatures are climbing, so that's a good thing.
I pulled into my apartment building last night after I was done, and there was actually a guy with a pickaxe, like swinging at his garage because there's
my.
a giant chunk of ice in front of the garage door that never got like plowed out with a plow.
I truly hope he was using care and didn't get hurt.
I can only hope. He was really swinging at that ice, and you know what? I would too. It's a pretty thick chunk of ice.
Well, it looks to me like Trucker Al is giving us a call. So, Addison, can you bring him on for us? Hi, Al.
Hi, it's 53 degrees in Green Bay right now.
Oh,
It's sunny.
That's stunning. You get sunshine? Oh, I love it.
He's called to brag.
Well,
Yeah,
okay, wait. Did you get Dean's beer? He was very concerned about that the last time you talked to him on air.
It's gonna get warm
I
with how warm
did.
it is there.
Okay, so
I did.
Al got the beer. Addison is suggesting you put it on ice. I'm telling you that whatever you got to do to get it here, I mean, let's not worry about those details. Ice can be dealt with later. It's fine. It's fine.
I will do that just for my children there. Anything for you guys.
You have no idea how children is an accurate depiction of this situation. I mean,
I know.
you're talking
So
to
were you able to check out the new John Deeres?
when I was in San Antonio.
Yeah.
I did, and even though John Deere went to on their newer tractors that are going to be coming out, they're going to have a push start. So kind of like vehicles that have a push start, keyless access, John Deere's going to be doing it. And there were certainly plenty of people for and against, but here's the thing. It just made everybody talk about it. And then if you looked at their equipment, you'd probably go down the line and look at somebody else's equipment as well. So it certainly made a good standout talking point. But yeah, I got a chance to look at John Deere's. I saw what Case had. They had their new Case Steiger Quad Track, the 785. And then I saw that Horsch also had a number of pieces of equipment on display in the building as well.
It's all about the information that you get, a little bit here and there.
It is. And there's certainly, I can honestly tell you, I had lots of notes, things that I'm going to be able to plug into the show for the next few weeks. So
Yep.
thanks, Al.
And if you need more egg cartons, just yell.
I will. I will always take a few more if you need them. That'd be awesome. Thanks. All right, folks. Up next will be the Jay Thomas Show. Don't forget to join us tomorrow. We are going to continue on that theme of health, and we're going to talk with Marita Meach. She started the Jim Meach AgriMed Crisis Foundation for Farmers. Tune in so you know what that's about.